Hey, what's going on, guys? So, trying something a little new. Been into F1 for a little bit now, and so figured do a little recap, or outlook, I should say, about the Turkish Grand Prix that's coming up, and then do like a race recap and see if you all enjoy it. So, if you would love to leave a comment and just let me know what you liked about this, what you didn't, what you would want to see, that'd be very helpful. And let's get into it. All right, so talking about the Turkish Grand Prix 2021. Here's a shot from last year's. Can't forget how rainy that was, and hoping for just as exciting of a race. So here are the qualifying results, and of course this doesn't take into account Lewis Hamilton's 10-place grid penalty, so he'll be starting 11. And then also it doesn't take into account Carlos Sainz, who qualified 15th. He's going to be starting back of the grid for the engine replacement he had to make on his car. So it'll 1, 2, and 3 is going to be Valtteri, Max, and Charles Leclerc. Now, look, biased, big Ferrari guy here, so very, very happy to see Charles Leclerc get into that top 3. Some other notable performances here are going to be Pierre Gasly and Yuki Tsunoda, both AlphaTauris finishing top 10. That's huge. Gasly's been there, kind of throughout the whole season, but Yuki Tsunoda sneaking into that top 10, and he'll actually be 9th because of Lewis Hamilton starting 11th. So that's huge for them, and that should set them up nicely for some good points. Looking at the back of the field, we're going to jump to Mick Schumacher. And I think he's tied. This is tied 14th for the highest he's placed yet in the grid. So that's huge for him. Congrats. He's really throughout the season kind of, becoming his own racer throughout this whole thing. Even with Haas, always rooting for Haas, and it's a heartbreak every week. But shout out to him for making progress on that. It was a real shame. Daniel Ricciardo, 16th. Got out in Q3, just couldn't make it happen. He's a favorite, not so much for the racing, but his personality. He drives a lot of focus to the sport in a really good way. Really happy for Valtteri. Always been a fan of him. So hopefully that this is his chance to shine. He's gonna have to hold off Max, which personally I don't think is gonna happen, even though I want it to. But I definitely think Max is gonna get around him. And don't get me wrong, even though Lewis Hamilton is starting 11th, he'll make that up, no problem. So he'll, before you know it, he'll be fighting for those podium positions easily. So it's just a matter of time. Really, it just depends on how long it takes Lewis to be able to pass all those people, and then how long Valtteri can hold off Max at the front. Because if Max passes Valtteri, he's off, and he's just going to soar and keep pulling away. Even though Sainz and Charles Leclerc, Charles will be starting 3rd, which is huge. And even though Carlos Sainz is starting last on the grid, even throughout the practices, they were looking good. They were all consistently top 5 throughout all the practices, both Ferraris. So a lot of hope for Sainz that he'll be able to just work his way up through this field, as it seemed like they had a really good feel of the track. And one last thing on this, I do have to say, not the biggest showing for McLaren, actually. We got Norris, Sepp he'll be starting 6th, and like we were saying earlier, Daniel Ricciardo starting 16th. It's just a little lackluster for them, Really, it's going to come down to Norris, should be able to get past. Oh, actually, Perez is in front of him, and that'll be a tough one. I do think Perez will be able to work his way up as well. Definitely Alonso will be coming down. Gasly will be coming down. And I could even see Perez, passing Leclerc if Hamilton doesn't get there first. But kind of expected more out of McLaren. Norris, I think he's just a little shaken up from Russia 2 weeks ago. and that real disappointing turn of events, heartbreaking. But young kid, he'll be able to pick it up no problem in the future. Okay, so now we're going to be moving on to the current constructor standings before the Turkish Grand Prix. This is, I mean, focusing on Mercedes and Red Bull, it's just, Valtteri has been such a solid number 2 to Hamilton, but Perez has been just average, honestly, compared to, Verstappen and Valtteri. So if Perez is able to figure something out and close that gap, then that'll be huge in, making up those 33 points for Red Bull. But Valtteri's not backing down, especially him starting pole this, tomorrow. And then, we said Perez was starting, well, he'll be starting 6th, and he'll be able to make it up, but he's going to really have to put in work because Hamilton's going to pass there. So honestly, outlook, I see Mercedes staying ahead throughout the rest of the season. That's just how it is. And then one of my favorite battles is McLaren and Ferrari. That has been great to watch, like the mid-tier teams really be close and battle it out. So, McLaren's really pulling away, or at least in the past month or so they have been. But, Leclerc's starting in a phenomenal position. If he can manage to get, on the podium, that'd be huge. If Sainz can, pass the back of the pack and get points, that'd be huge too. Really, if Sainz gets past Ricciardo at any point and gets points, that's huge. And Lando Norris would have to pass Leclerc to make any real huge difference in that. The rest, talking Alpine and down, shout out to them. Bold prediction that Schumacher is going to get the first Haas points here in this Turkish Grand Prix. Mark my words, I called it here first. All right, so we'll move on to just the driver standings right now. Lewis Hamilton's ahead by 2 points, which is just unreal. And then, Valtteri, Norris, Perez, Sainz, Leclerc. So I don't see too much changing here, honestly. I take that back. I do think after this race, Verstappen's going to have the lead. Despite a kind of spin out, you have to retire the car situation, I do think Verstappen is going to surpass Hamilton. But sadly, I think that's going to be a little short-lived. So if he does, he should enjoy it for the time. And also, I see Valtteri just kind of expanding his lead over Norris. I see that happening too. Okay, so moving on. The weather. We can't forget how much the weather made a difference last year. So, and even if you all watched qualifying in Q1, people were spinning out, especially on turn 1, like there was no tomorrow. So, and that was only with a little bit of slickness. So the fact that, there's a chance of rain all throughout Sunday, the 10th, it's not, it's looking to be an interesting Grand Prix where at any point anything can happen. So those drivers are really going to have to be on their toes the entire time, really. Yeah, I really hope that you all did watch the qualifying, because that was, especially Q1, it was just incredible to watch. It was tough to get a fast time because everyone was just fighting to stay on the track, really. And, looking back at Russia, I think teams are going to be a lot more cautious when rain comes in, because in Russia it was just the last few laps, but it made all the difference for drivers and teams. So I think that if rain starts to come in, they're going to over-prepare, if you will, to put on the right tires and get all that sorted out, which I think, is good. Even, a little slower, but hey, if you stay on the track, that's what matters, right? But yes, so if it's raining at all, the weather will make out to be a really, really interesting 2021 Turkish Grand Prix. And then lastly, we're just going to cap it off. I mean, look at this car. So sick. I know they were using it for, oh man, was it Japan that was canceled or Tokyo? Pardon me for I think Tokyo, not knowing. because Honda is based there. But I mean, just incredible, and I'm so glad that they decided to use it, because that is just so sick. It doesn't look like it's been doing them too good thus far, but you know, maybe they're saving it for the race. In qualifying, it was insane because Hamilton and Verstappen, I mean, Hamilton would set fastest lap, then Verstappen would, then Hamilton would just go like a half second down, and then Verstappen would match it, then Hamilton. So, I mean, you know, throughout this entire season, it's looked like Red Bull might have had the faster car, but I don't know, on this, you know, on this Turkish Grand Prix track, Mercedes has been killing it, and I think they're going to be the team to beat, even with Hamilton starting in 11th. That's going to be no problem for him. Yeah, so that's it, everyone. If you watched, I really appreciate it. I think I'm going to start doing this little outlook to whatever the Grand Prix is, you know, when qualifying happens. Then I'll probably do a race recap as well. Again, just leave a comment. Let me know what you liked, what you didn't, what you would want to see. Very, very open to that. And I'll be coming at you with another video soon with the race recap. And enjoy the race. Appreciate you watching. Have a good one.